about all of them.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Memorial Day 2018 is proudly supported by the Clear Creek Township, City of Springboro, and our Springboro schools, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome today. Isn't it love? I know it's a hot day. We're going to try to move things along as best we can and get you out of the heat into the cafeteria where it's a little bit cooler. But things go on. Our veterans have suffered many things, cold, hot, etc. So that being said, our honor guards are going to walk out and lead us in our national anthem. Color guards, prepare to go present arms. Please stand.
Creator God, and the God that brings peace to each heart. Our prayer today is both of pride, that we live in a country where we can serve you freely, worship you freely, and it's with humility for all the prices that have been paid to bring us to this day in 2018. You've given us a wonderful country, but it has come at a high price for many families. Help us never to forget that. Bless those who serve now and put their lives in harm's way for us. Bless us that we may support them, that we may support this great country that you have created. God bless us, and God bless America. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Before I have our deputy mayor make some remarks today, I just want to say a few kudos to the scouts. They do so much. The parade route, those flags would not get done if it wasn't for them. They do the cemetery. They do so many things with our future leaders. So let's give our scouts a great big hand. Okay, our deputy mayor, Steve Harding, has some remarks.
Thank you for being here today. I stand here before you feeling actually humbled and not worthy. Although I come from a military family, I medically wasn't able to serve the armed forces. But I feel deeply honored to be here. For it was your fathers, your mothers, sons, daughters, wives, husbands, uncles, aunts, grandparents, and friends who are serving, who have served, or even given the ultimate sacrifice to this nation for me to have the privilege to be here. I've never lost anyone in war or battle, so I don't pretend I understand your suffering. From my years, I have seen and witnessed the pain and suffering of others, though. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge any who have lost a loved one in the line of duty to this country. We thank you for their sacrifices. From what I've witnessed, it doesn't matter how much time has passed. No words of condolences can even begin to adequately console a survivor's grief. And while grief from the loss may change throughout the years, it never leaves us. On every last Monday in May, we find ourselves reflecting on those men and women who so bravely risked life and limb in the face of great danger. That's why we're here today, to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today, and those who are here in spirit, as a person cannot help but feel awed by the enormity of what we encountered. We stand in the midst of patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. We remember those who left the comforts of home to fight for us and our freedom, but never returned one day to trade that title of soldier, sailor, airman, Coast Guardsman, or Marine for veteran. The service members we honor today come from all walks of life, but they share several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Many of them didn't even ask to leave their homes to fight on distant battlefields. Many didn't even volunteer. My grandfather told me there was a word for that. It was called voluntold. They didn't go to war because they loved fighting. They were called to be part of something bigger than themselves. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways in extreme times. They rose to the nation's call because they wanted to protect the nation, which had given them and us so much. Those of us here today understand that to recognize their service and sacrifice, we must ensure their individuals are never forgotten, and that their actions stay alive in our memories and in our hearts. This is important for honoring the heroes of today and then the veterans of years gone by who paved the way for them. John F. Kennedy, a Navy veteran of World War II and Purple Heart recipients, once said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." Today, I remember my grandfather in heaven, William Studevant. Private Studevant was an Army civil engineer building runways and bridges. He received the Purple Heart after being shot up in the Philippines by the Japanese. Thank you, Grandpa, for your service in this great nation and still looking down today, protecting us. On this Memorial Day, try and take some time, even if it's just a few minutes, to think and remember those men, boys, and women from our hometown and from across the country who have served and died, but who will never be forgotten. Because the real memory of the meaning of Memorial Day is to honor and remember all those American soldiers who died defending our freedom. I'd like to leave you with a little quote, or a little poem from Emily Toma. Remember those who served before. Remember those who are no more. Remember those who serve today. Remember them as we eat and play. Remember our protectors who are not home today. Remember them all on Memorial Day. Thank you. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America.
Before I ask the band to play, I just want to say that today, and things like today, would not happen if it wasn't for the cooperation between the township and the city schools. I see Eddie Wade, the president of the township. Years ago, we went around selling ads, and Eddie and I got together and said, let's put it on. Let's spend the money to get the things done. It's got to get done. The school puts in theirs. I see Sandy. She's been here for almost every one, if not all of them. So thank you for all you do, township, schools, and chamber. The city appreciates it, and I know all of you do. So let's give them a hand. Now, one of my favorite parts of any kind of parade, any kind of ceremony when it comes to military, and no one does it finer than our band. And so when your song plays, stand up for your branch of service. It's called the Salute to American Heroes. Now our 2018 Grand Marshal is Jim Kilgore. And a little bio about Jim: he was born and raised down the road in West Carrollton, Ohio. He joined the Air Force shortly after graduating from Dayton Christian High. He completed a few deployments to the Middle East during his Air Force career. Jim retired as a Master Sergeant in 2014 and moved back home to Ohio, where he and his wife Laura are raising 6 children. Jim currently serves clients as a financial advisor at Midwestern Wealth Management here in Springboro. He also serves on the boards of the Warren County Veterans Service Commission and a nonprofit project, Rise Above. Both organizations assist veterans in many ways. When Jim has free time, he enjoys hunting, fishing, and golfing. My good friend, who helped our country in so many ways, Jim Kilgore.
Sorry about the hat today. I was having a bad hair day, so I figured I'd wear a hat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's events, and thank you for attending. I'm honored to be speaking with you today on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor our service members and to remember the sacrifices they've made in honor of duty and country.
The Greek philosopher Thucydides once said, "The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet, notwithstanding, go out to meet it." The service members we honor today came from all walks of life. They possessed a lot of the same qualities: courage, pride, integrity, a lot of the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than themselves. Since the first shots at Lexington and Concord were fired in the Revolutionary War, American men and women have been answering the nation's call to duty. Millions of Americans have fought and died on the battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and our way of life. Today, our troops continue to make the ultimate sacrifices, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward to say, "I'm ready to serve." They follow in the footsteps of generations of fine Americans. The idea for Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day, and it arose from the ashes of the Civil War. Following the Civil War, at least 620,000 Americans, both Union and Confederate, had been killed, and hundreds of thousands more maimed. Through the course of the war, Americans had blasted at each other's lines with cannons and burned cities and towns on our own soil. Americans had locked each other in prisoner of war camps and torn up the railroads connecting the North and the South. Homes, schools, churches, from Antietam to Vicksburg, were riddled with bullet holes. The war's unprecedented carnage and destruction was on a scale not even imaginable a few years before. And it changed America's view of war forever. From those dark times, it was the families who were honoring their dead that began to bring the light of reconciliation. Although there are different versions of how Memorial Day began, one story goes that grieving families, both northern and southern, began decorating the graves of their lost soldiers with flowers and wreaths. In one city in Mississippi, people decorated the graves of both Union and Confederate troops out of respect for those families of the Union soldiers and with the hope that someone would do the same for their lost loved ones in the North. These informal honors led to the first formal Memorial Day ceremony in Waterloo, New York in 1866. And Congress officially recognized Memorial Day as a federal holiday in 1887. Since then, with each passing year and subsequent conflicts, we've continued to honor our troops. We've awarded many medals to many different soldiers, added their names to monuments, and named buildings for them to honor them for their bravery. But nothing can ever replace the hole left behind a fallen service member, and no number of medals and ribbons can comfort the ones left behind. Today, people throughout the country will gather together to remember, to honor, and to pay gratitude for those who've served our country. And our gathering is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns across the nation today and every day. It's not a lot, but it's one small way we can honor those who have given their all to defend freedom. Our presence here today and that of the people gathering across America is a tribute to those lost troops. It's a way to say we remember, from the soldiers who shivered and starved throughout the winter at Valley Forge, to the doughboys crouched in the muddy trenches of France, to the platoon who patrolled the hazy jungles of Vietnam, and the young man or woman patrolling the mountains of Iraq and Afghanistan today. We remember them all. In closing, I would like to read part of a Memorial Day address given by President Ronald Reagan as he gave it from Arlington National Cemetery. So if you'll indulge me for just another couple of moments, I'll be finished. I have no illusions about what little I can add now to the silent testimony of those who gave their lives willingly for their country. Words are even more feeble on this Memorial Day, for the sight before us is that of a strong and good nation that stands in silence and remembers those who were loved and who in return loved their countrymen enough to die for them. Our first obligation to them and to ourselves is plain enough. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper. Their lives remind us that the freedom is not bought cheaply. It has a cost, and it imposes a burden. And just as they whom we commemorate were willing to sacrifice, so too we must, in a less final, less heroic way, be willing to give of ourselves. The willingness of some to give their lives that others may live never fails to evoke in us a sense of wonder and mystery. One gets that feeling here on this ground, and I have known the same poignant feeling as I looked out across the rows of white crosses and stars of David in Europe and the Philippines and the military cemeteries here in our own land. They span several generations of young Americans, all different and all alike. Like the markers above their resting places, all alike in a truly meaningful way. Beyond those monuments to heroism is the Potomac, and on the far shore, the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row upon row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses and stars of David. They add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that's been paid for our freedom. Each of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places like Bella Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies in Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a man named Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed, trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary, and on the flyleaf of that diary, under the heading, "My Pledge," he had written these words: "America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." I thank you so much for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the light from the night up above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Emma Muselarm is going to recite something before the reenactment team she wants to share with us. Emma?
For those of you that may not know, 100 years ago, in 1918, World War I was officially ended. Canadian Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae recorded the accounts of several battles during this time. Inspired by the sight of thousands of resilient red poppies growing among the European battlefields, he wrote this poem entitled In Flanders Field. Today I want to share it with you. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks still sing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from flailing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
From the shots fired in Lexington Green and Concord, the resolve of the Minuteman was evident. From 1775 until 1784, our small colonial military of 3 million men, comprised mostly of militia, fought for independence from England, which at the time was the most powerful nation on earth. They suffered defeats at Bunker Hill and Philadelphia, endured the hardships of Valley Forge, surprised their enemy at Trenton, Harlem Heights, Kings Mountain, and Cowpens, losing over 4,000 men before the British surrender at Yorktown. When the War of 1812 erupted, the U.S. Army had but 5,000 troops, and our Navy only 12 warships. This was rapidly expanded to over 280,000 men, again largely militia. The British burned our capital, but Fort McHenry, with its legendary Great Flag, stood strong to protect the city of Baltimore, and Andrew Jackson's forces repelled the British at New Orleans. Overall, some 2,000 American lives were lost. The Civil War pitted brother against brother, father against son, neighbor against neighbor. Over 1 million Confederates determined to gain Southern independence tested the nation's resolve for 4 long years. The United States mustered over 2 million troops to preserve the Union. Many of Union and Confederate troops had trained and served together in the years prior to the war. They would now meet again at places like Bull Run, Antietam, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Gettysburg, Atlanta, and Cold Harbor. By war's end, 364,000 Union forces lay dead. The Confederacy sacrificed 134,000 men for their cause before surrendering at Appomattox Courthouse. The sinking of the USS Maine propelled our country into the Spanish-American War, most remembered by the Rough Riders' charge up San Juan Hill. The short war only claimed 385 battlefield fatalities in Cuba and the Philippines. However, an additional 2,400 died from tropical diseases such as yellow fever. In 1917, the United States entered the Great War in Europe, the war to end all wars. Nearly 500,000 U.S. troops were deployed to Europe in hopes of breaking the stalemate of the bloody trench war that employed new and devastating weaponry such as the machine gun, the tank, poison gas, the submarine, and the airplane. 160,000 perished at places such as Chateau, Thierry, Saint-Mihiel, Flanders Field, and the Battle of Meuse-Argonne. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States trained and equipped a military of more than 16 million troops. For the first time in history, women officially joined our forces, though not in combat roles. Our forces fought on two fronts, Europe and the Pacific. They battled in North Africa, took the beaches at Normandy, and endured the Battle of the Bulge, captured Iwo Jima, fought at Midway in the Coral Sea, and bombed Berlin and Tokyo from the air. 406,000 lost their lives to free the world from tyranny. In the early 1950s, the U.S. was drawn into a war in Korea in an attempt to thwart the spread of communism. 6,800,000 served, including those of the newly created United States Air Force. More than 50,000 gave their all to preserve democracy. The U.S. sent over 9 million military personnel to Vietnam from 1964 until 1975. This was mostly a guerrilla war with no real battle lines. A war fought utilizing the helicopter to leapfrog from one area to another. 109,000 service members were killed in action before withdrawing in 1975. An additional 2,500 remain missing in action. In the early 1990s, the U.S. deployed over 2 million military personnel to the Persian Gulf to liberate Kuwait from Iraqi forces and to protect Saudi Arabia from being invaded. A month-long air campaign and a 5-day ground battle saw Kuwait liberated and the Iraqi army in retreat. The U.S. suffered 148 combat fatalities. Our troops continue to fight in Afghanistan, where over 2,322 have died and over 30,000 injured. And in Iraq, where over 4,414 have died and 31,882 seriously injured. Today we pay tribute to the Army, Navy, Marine, Air Force, and Coast Guard who fought and died for our freedom and ideals.
Where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims passed, from every mountainside let freedom ring.
Jacob Hain, good task. It's always a pleasure to see the honor guard from our great county. Thank you very much for all that you do, and you look great in uniform. Okay, try to get it done as quick as we can. We're almost there. Please sit down just for a second. I want to say thank you to all those who endured the heat today. A big special thank you to Carol Hughes and the Rotary, who's got food waiting for us inside. A big special thank you to Tracy, Bob, and Samantha Wilson for all they did. A big thank you to the Merge and Mike Thompson for all you did today. And thank the band, of course, and our Springboro Police Department, our Junior ROTC, our Fire Department for all they do with the ladders, the honor guard, etc., and the list goes on. There's 400 of these programs floating around somewhere. We just haven't found them. So we're going to see if we can find them while you're in there eating, and we'll get them to you. So that being said, our benediction, Pastor Terry.
Please pray with me. Oh God, you are both a God of strength and of peace. As you support our military and those who protect us, give them strength that they may bring peace to this country and to this world. But as we leave this place today, having celebrated and having remembered, give each one of us the strength to use our skills to bring peace to our families, to our communities, to our country, and to this world. Unite us, one nation, under God. Amen.
God bless America. Enjoy your day.